Hey, everybody. Today we're going to talk about why hiring a cheap lawyer can cost you big league and even cause you to lose your case. But before we get into it, my name is Damon Moore. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing since 2005. I'm licensed in 12 states. I have an office in Austin, Texas. I also have an office in Indiana, and I've taken on hundreds of cases of various kinds across the country. And I had an interesting conversation with somebody today. I was talking to the person. I quoted a price, and she just hung up on me. And then she sent me a message, basically saying that the rate was too high and that she had already found a lawyer that could take on the case for much less money. And so I am, happy that she found a person like that, and I hope she was able to, or I hope she is able to resolve her case. But I wanted to take a moment and talk to you about why that kind of mindset and is a bad one. And when I'm talking about the mindset, I mean the mindset that says, the lawyer that charged 1,500 is just as good as the lawyer who charged 5,000. I think I think that deserves some conversation, and so I want to share my thoughts with it on. I want to share my thoughts on that matter with you, and hopefully, I can be helpful to you in some way. So, first, I want to explain something about the way lawyers do their pricing. Every lawyer believes he or she is worth uh, a certain amount of money, a range of dollars, if you will. So, for example, in Texas, typical family law attorney, we'll use family law, but this could apply to family law, business services. It could apply to criminal defense, uh, any area in which lawyers are known to charge by the hour. This mindset is similar, but let's say in family law, typical family law attorney in Texas is going to believe he or she is worth somewhere between about $250 an hour and about $500 an hour. And yes, there are some lawyers who will charge much less, but they've got some specific reasons for doing that. Say, for example, they're assisting someone with a low income. And then you've got some lawyers that I've seen charge as much as 800 an hour for cases in Texas. In my opinion, those lawyers are using their rates as a branding exercise or a marketing exercise. Those same lawyers would charge 1,000 as soon as they heard that other lawyers were charging 800. So it's just something that they're doing for their planning. But let's say, for the purposes of this discussion, that lawyers are typically charging between $250 and $500 an hour in Texas. So when you have a lawyer that's charging in that range, and that lawyer has a good idea of what other people are charging, the lawyer says, okay, I may not be able to get a 5,000 retainer like everybody else is, and I'm concerned that if you call me and I quote 5,000 and you hang up, you might call somebody else and get them to do it for free. And so what you do, or what the lawyer does in that situation, is the lawyer charges a lower amount for the retainer. So the lawyer is hearing that other people are charging 5,000. The lawyer wants the work. So the lawyer says, okay, I'll charge you 1,000, and uh, and and you feel like, or the customer or client feels like the customer or client is getting a great deal. But if the lawyer is charging, let's say, 300 an hour, but the lawyer wants a retainer of 1,000, then what happens is, once the lawyer has worked, let's see here, 300. 1,000. Once the lawyer has worked 3 hours and 20 minutes on your case, the lawyer starts to get uneasy because now the lawyer is concerned that you're not going to pay the lawyer. And lawyers don't want to work for free. So in those situations, they'll do one of two things, basically. They will stop working on your case until they've received more money from you, or they'll withdraw from the case. Or I suppose there's another option. It's kind of related to the first one. They slow down. They do the bare minimum that they can do, and because you don't know that they're doing the bare minimum, it doesn't necessarily show up until the very end. Now, most of the time, the opposing party has a level of income that's very similar to yours, and so their lawyer's doing the same thing to them, and nobody's the wiser. But every once in a while, you get into a situation where you choose the low dollar attorney, and the opposing party chooses an attorney that requires more money up front, and that lawyer who required more up front does more work for the opposing party. And you see it in the way that the cases play out. Oftentimes, the other lawyer looks more prepared. Oftentimes, the other lawyer is more prepared because the other lawyer's done more work. And that ends up costing you in a significant way at the end of your case. And so that's the biggest reason why having a low dollar attorney can cost you pretty big. I'll give you an example. If a client comes to me in a custody dispute and the client says, "Hey, I'm willing to spend $5,000 as a retainer," well, then I know I'm going to be able to do things like discovery. I know I'm going to be able to interview witnesses. I know I'm going to be able to place pressure on the opposing party that's going to lead to outcomes that are positive for the person. Now, if that person, if the client comes to me and says, I'm not going to do, or I can do more than 5,000, I can do 7,000. Well, at that point, now I'm going to get an expert. Maybe I'm going to get a counselor who can meet with the child and assist in a way that is even more productive. Experts and counselors and things of that type really help clients win cases because judges trust experts and counselors more than they trust the participants in the cases, because they assume either consciously or subconsciously that the expert doesn't have any personal bias or interests that would impact them when it comes to giving their legal opinion or giving their opinion in a legal setting. And so experts are really very good. But if you're a person who's paying $1,000 for your lawyer, then you're not getting that expert. And so you want to be conscious of that as you're thinking about what it is that you're going to do and how much you're going to pay. Or you want to be conscious of that when you're dismissing the $5,000 or the $8,000 attorney in favor of the person who says, "Hey, I'll represent you for $1,000 down and $200 a month," or some number along those lines. So that's just something to think about. It's just in my opinion, the major reason why you want to be careful when it comes to low dollar attorneys. I would say that another reason that you have to be very careful when it comes to some of the lower dollar attorneys is that the lower dollar attorney is often charging a lower amount because that attorney lacks experience. When you hire a lawyer who's at the lower end of the pay scale, that lawyer is, I'm sorry, yes, when you're hiring a lawyer who's at the lower end of the scale in terms of what that lawyer is charging, that lawyer tends to be charging that lower amount because of a lack of experience, and that can get you in trouble when you're up against another person who has a little more experience. And one of the really uh, strange or counterintuitive results that occurs with some of those lower dollar attorneys is you actually can end up paying more, because what happens is, in many cases, a lower dollar attorney has to do more research to reach the same conclusion that the higher dollar attorney may know just from memory. And so, when you're paying another person to learn, that can become very expensive very, very quickly. Another issue, or another way in which a higher dollar attorney or a lower dollar attorney can cost you, is because that lower dollar attorney oftentimes lacks the resources necessary to get the job done. As I was saying earlier, things like expert witnesses, counselors, investigators, things of that type, those people often come with a price tag. And when you're using the lower dollar attorney, you can get in a mindset that suggests to you that they're going to be able to accomplish the same thing that the higher dollar attorney accomplishes. And it leads to bad results more often than it leads to good results. A third reason that a lower dollar attorney can sometimes cost you and cause you to lose your case is that oftentimes the low dollar attorney is both overworked and underprepared. Here's what I mean. If you're a lower dollar, if you're dealing with an attorney who's charging a lower dollar per hour, or a lower dollar to take on your case, that lawyer is often in what some people call a volume practice, where they're saying, okay, I've got to take 5 $1,000 retainer cases instead of taking one $5,000 retainer case. And so what ends up happening, as you can imagine, the volume lawyer has 5 clients, the higher dollar lawyer has 1 client, and those 5 clients are pulling from that lawyer's time. They're pulling that lawyer's time. They're pulling that lawyer's emotional energy, and they've got significant issues that are really stretching the lawyer thin. And so the lawyer is not in a position to be able to do a lot of in-depth work for any of those clients. And that leads to that lawyer being unprepared. And in the practice of law, especially when you're going to be going into a courtroom and trying to convince a judge to handle things in a certain way, you want to be prepared. You want to know your side of the case, and you want to know the other person's side of the case, and you want to know why the other person's positions are wrong and why your positions are right, and you want to be able to do it very, very quickly. So when you have a lower dollar attorney, that attorney is often underprepared and overworked. Another reason that I have found that having a lower dollar attorney can cost you is that sometimes that lower dollar attorney has very poor negotiating skills. That's because when that lawyer has a significant number of cases that lawyer is not able to go and do the kind of in-depth research that enables that lawyer to negotiate better outcomes for the client. One of the examples that I'll give to you that I think will illustrate this is if you know anybody who has dealt with public defenders, you can ask them and they'll talk to you about how little their public defender interacts with them. Well, it's not that the public defender is bad. Many public defenders are very good lawyers who care about their work. But when that person is being swamped with work, they're not able to put in the kind of in-depth research, the kind of effort that's necessary. And what ends up happening in many instances is that public defender is incentivized to give or to encourage the client to take plea deals. Similarly, let's say we're in the family law context, or we're dealing with domestic relations cases. What ends up happening is that the lawyer, because the lawyer has so much work, the lawyer is inclined to do things to bring cases to a resolution rather than putting up the kind of fight that might be necessary to get a better outcome for the client. And so the lower dollar attorney often has poor negotiating skills. Another reason that a lower dollar attorney can cost you and cause you to lose your case is that the lower dollar attorney tends to lack reputation and credibility relative to the higher dollar attorney. When you're a low dollar attorney, oftentimes they're seeing you in the court. The judges are accustomed to you not really putting in the kind of work necessary to get a great outcome for a person, because the judge is looking at what's happening just like everyone else is. The judge sees that the lawyer half-assed his way through a case. Judge may not help you if you're the client, may not help you or save you from the low dollar attorney's lack of effort, but the judge sees it. And I think subconsciously or consciously, it causes the judge to think less of that lawyer. And that can impact you as the client when you are hiring that lawyer, because the judge is seeing you through the lawyer. And what the judge is thinking of about that lawyer can often have an impact on what the judge thinks about you. And so, and I'll admit that other lawyers will have a difference in opinion on that issue. Many other lawyers will say, "Oh, judges don't look at it in that way," and many judges would say, "Oh, I don't care about the lawyer. I'm looking at each case on the merits." Who am I to question the wisdom and philosophy of the judge and how he looks at people? But it is my view from my experience, having been a lawyer since 2005, that certain judges or that judges may be inclined to think a certain way about a client because of the lawyer. But I will tell you something that I can say with much more confidence. I, as a lawyer, make certain decisions about how I'm going to handle a case based on who the lawyer is on the other side. And here's what I mean. If I know that a lawyer is operating under a volume practice, if I know that a lawyer is the kind of lawyer who doesn't really want to be in the case until the end and doesn't really want to put in a lot of work, there are things that I'll do to that lawyer. I might hit that lawyer with a significant amount of discovery. I might hit that lawyer with some motions that I might not otherwise hit a lawyer with. Um, uh, I may place certain pressures on the lawyer to respond to things in a way that I might not, if I'm dealing with another lawyer that I think has what if I'm dealing with another lawyer who might have the ability to what I would call counterpunch. If I'm dealing with a very good counterpuncher, then I know that there's a price to pay when I throw my blow, and I'm going to operate a little bit more slowly. But if I know that I can beat up on a guy, then and there's not going to be any repercussions, then I'm going to take that into account when I'm deciding on how it is that I want to handle a particular case. So so those are some things that I think that I would uh, that come to mind for me. Some things that I think you should consider when you're trying to determine uh, or when you're thinking about whether you should take that low dollar lawyer over the lawyer that's charging a little bit more. If you like what you've heard or you want to hear more of my thoughts, you're welcome to leave a comment with questions. You're also, or I'd encourage you to subscribe and press the like button and pass this information along to someone else. Thank you for your time. Take care.